Thank you for joining me on 13 Plus. I'm Cali Lichter, and this is On the Docket, a weekly recap of crime and court in and around the state of Michigan. This week, we go over the video and fallout of a protester arrested while 13 on Your Side's cameras were rolling. And we have video from throughout the investigation into a school maintenance worker who is spending years in prison for child pornography charges. All of that and more is On the Docket. We start the show today with one of the biggest stories in West Michigan and one of the biggest stories internationally this year. Shortly after the new year, the United States detained Nicolas Maduro, the president of Venezuela, over charges he's facing in the United States. All across the country and here in Grand Rapids, protesters gathered on January 3rd to oppose the military actions of Venezuela, and one of the protests took place in Rosa Parks Circle in Grand Rapids. Although there were dozens of protesters in attendance, one moment after the protest was finished caught international attention.
Just hours after the United States attacked Venezuela and captured the country's president, Nicolas Maduro, the message from dozens of protesters in downtown Grand Rapids was clear. The demonstrators gathering near Rosa Parks Circle on Saturday afternoon. Before marching through the streets.
We have to apply pressure at all points that we can. This is not just a foreign issue, it's our tax dollars that are also being used to commit these war crimes.
Jessica Plichta organized the protest with the group Grand Rapids Opponents of War. She was in Venezuela just 3 weeks ago for an international summit.
I saw Maduro in person. The people loved him. Maduro was elected by the people. He is for the people, and the people want to see his return. So free Maduro.
Immediately after our interview, Plichta was arrested by Grand Rapids police officers.
I am not resisting arrest.
No, you're not resisting.
Before climbing into the passenger seat, an officer says that Plichta was arrested for obstructing a roadway and failure to obey a lawful command from a peace officer.
These types of interventions rarely work.
Thomas Walker is a professor of international relations at Grand Valley State University.
They prove to be a lot more costly in terms of blood and treasure than anyone recognizes in the early stages.
President Trump says the U.S. will run Venezuela until it can make a proper transition. Walker says that plan could prove unpopular.
I don't think the United States would ever be able to garner that legitimacy. And without that legitimacy, the costs of governing, the challenges of governing go up dramatically.
Republicans representing West Michigan have largely supported the military action. In a statement, U.S. Representative John Molinar from the 2nd Congressional District, writing, quote, "Today may be a new day in Venezuela. Nicolas Maduro was a dictator who contributed to narco-terrorism targeting Americans and subjected his people to unspeakable horrors." Bill Huizenga, representing the state's 4th Congressional District, writing in posts on his social media accounts, quote, "Anyone connected with Maduro should be viewed as illegitimate. The United States should recognize Edmundo Gonzalez Urrutia, the rightful winner of the past election, as president." Walker is uncertain about what will happen next, but he worries about the example it could set on a global stage.
Setting this precedent in the international system can be very, very destabilizing.
I was able to interview Plichta 2 days after her arrest to get her thoughts on her arrest that has now gone viral.
It was disappointing but not surprising for Jessica Plichta.
And as soon as the light to the camera shut off, 2 police officers came up behind me and said, "Put your hands on your head, you're under arrest."
As she was arrested just moments after an interview with 13 on Your Side.
I am not resisting arrest.
No, you're not resisting arrest.
I'm not resisting arrest. I'm going peacefully.
Organizer Plichta was arrested for failure to obey a lawful order of a police officer after marching in the streets of Grand Rapids against U.S. actions in Venezuela on January 3rd. Failure to obey a lawful command is a disorderly conduct offense.
They had me bend over the police car, they patted me down, removed my belongings, and then they put me back in the police car without buckling my seatbelt and drove me to Kent County Sheriff's Office, I believe. the jail.
This wasn't her first protest, and she's seen others be arrested before, so the arrest did not come as a surprise. But she questions why GRPD has a large presence at these protests.
And yet when we do it in Grand Rapids, there's this escalation. So it's like, why is Grand Rapids seem to be the only city in Michigan where protesting is illegal? I believe it's our sacred right in this country to protest.
We reached out to the city of Grand Rapids to ask what the penalties are for these charges and if it's city policy to arrest people who violate those city charges. A spokesperson for the city sent us back several city code sections that apply to pedestrians walking or standing in the roadway and policy on failure to obey a lawful command. In a statement to 13 on Your Side, a spokesperson for the Grand Rapids Police Department says protesters refused over 25 announcements from a cruiser's PA system to get off the road, and quote, patrol officers consulted with their sergeant and the watch commander, who informed the officers that if the individuals could be located, they were subject to arrest. The adult woman who was arrested was positively identified by officers, and the lawful arrest was made.
People will claim that a street march is horrible, but you know what? A street march, a peaceful march in the streets, is far more peaceful when the world is escalating violence at a drastic rate.
She says she is awaiting notification of her official charges.
We now know Lichter is charged with failure to obey a lawful order of a police officer, but our Josh Albertus looked into what state and local law says about street protesting.
Shockwaves around the globe following the U.S. capture of Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro on charges of narco-terrorism. The event spawning what was called an emergency protest here in Grand Rapids.
We want to stop war with Venezuela. We want to end all U.S. wars. We don't want boots on the ground in Venezuela. We don't want to fight Venezuela for oil. We don't want our friends and families to be sent to Venezuela and be killed for oil.
Just after 13 on Your Side spoke with local activist Jessica Lichter, she was then approached by Grand Rapids police.
I am not resisting arrest.
No, you're not resisting.
I'm not resisting arrest. I'm not resisting arrest.
What is she being arrested for? Obstructing a roadway and failed to obey a lawful command of a peace officer.
The allegation of obstructing a roadway brought up the question as to what the rules may be, aside from penalty for not obeying with a lawful order. Both Grand Rapids City Code and state law prohibit blocking a public road without authorization. In both, obstructing a roadway could often be treated as a civil infraction. Some have wanted to change that on certain roadways, with a bill from last summer still aiming to criminalize assemblies on highways statewide.
I like to see other points of view. We all should, and be open-minded. But when somebody's right ends, when another person's right begins, that's just not right.
A push that had some lawmakers and local activists questioning.
I am extremely concerned about the chilling effect that this would have on free speech and free assembly.
I think that it would have a chilling effect on not only protests, but it would also have a chilling effect over Americans, the community, period.
Next on the docket, local leaders speak on Lichter's arrest and justify why those actions were taken. Hear from GRPD Chief Eric Winstrom and Grand Rapids Mayor David LeGrand next. 13 on Your Side was finally able to sit down with Grand Rapids Police Chief Eric Winstrom on January 8th to talk about Lichter's arrest. Winstrom says officers took her into custody after she failed to follow multiple warnings to get out of the street and onto the sidewalk. Here's some of what he had to say.
Small group of protesters was out expressing their views, but unfortunately what they did was they decided to intentionally block traffic. And I say intentionally because you had a small number of officers out there that communicated with these individuals, and specifically a young woman who subsequently was arrested was one of the leaders of this group. Physically she was in front of the group, she had a bullhorn, she was instructing the individuals. It appeared she was actually directing them to join her onto the street. So I reviewed the video. It looks like the officers no less than 26 times told her she had to return to the sidewalk. There are obviously people just going about their business, but it's more than that when you block roadways, especially in the downtown area. We have people going about their business, people going to work, people going to the hospital. We have a level 1 trauma center here. We have the Children's Hospital. So we don't take blocking roadways lightly, but also we care about the safety of these individuals that are actually doing the blocking. And in reviewing the videos and seeing that these people are putting themselves in danger, so then we had to take officers off the street, their regular duties, physically block the vehicles just to protect these protesters, which are then, as I said, not listening to the officers' very clear directions over and over. You are free to express your opinions. You're free to use your speech. You have to do it from a safe place. You have to do it from a sidewalk. And very intentionally, as part of the protest, this group did not follow the law. There are protesters who refuse to follow laws because they believe those laws are unjust. And I have a lot of respect for individuals like that. Rosa Parks is the best example of that. Greensboro counter-protest. When there's an unjust law and you're protesting that law by violating it, I have a lot of respect for people that truly believe that. But when you're exercising your right to protest in a way that's violating a very just law, we pass laws for traffic control for very good reasons, and that's safety. And so violating those laws really has nothing to do with the free speech aspect of it. So subsequently, after the march was over, officers in the area that had been protecting these protesters from getting hit by vehicles and advising them to get off the roadway then saw this one of the individuals in front of the group, and they placed her under arrest.
We also heard from Grand Rapids Mayor David LeGrand on Plichta's arrest. This video, along with a statement, was emailed to our newsroom along with some of our reporters.
Hi. As mayor of Grand Rapids, I'm committed to protecting our residents' constitutional rights. There's nothing more central to our identity as Americans than the First Amendment. On Saturday, a group of protesters exercised their First Amendment rights to protest recent activities by the U.S. government in Venezuela. The protest was constitutional, and the city does not regulate protests based on message or viewpoint. Unfortunately, the protest shifted from the sidewalks to the roadways, which created a public safety concern. After multiple and repeated attempts to direct protesters to relocate to the sidewalks, GRPD officers consulted with their superiors, and a decision was made to arrest the individual for violating city safety laws, not for protesting. I commend the officers for acting with restraint and professionalism. I share many people's alarm about the current shape of U.S. foreign policy. I've been involved in protest of federal policies myself. I also fully recognize the safety concerns that our officers and their supervisors were faced with. When pedestrians get into moving traffic, our officers are charged with responding. I fully believe that protecting our residents' right to protest in a manner that's safe for all, including the protesters, is important. At the same time, I put full trust in Chief Winstrom and his team to work for safety in our community while treating our citizens with the respect and dignity we all deserve.
In the wake of Plichta's arrest and the deadly ICE officer-involved shooting in Minnesota, activists renewed their demands for local leaders to adopt sanctuary city policies. Members from local immigration rights organizations spoke at the Kent County Board of Commissioners meeting.
For months, immigration rights organizations have demanded that local officials in Kent County adopt sanctuary city policies in the wake of increased action from immigration and customs enforcement. After a woman was shot and killed by an ICE agent in Minneapolis on Wednesday, local activists are renewing their call for action.
Don't wait for something tragic happen like in Minnesota.
A plea from Hema Lowe, echoed by nearly 20 others who spoke during the public comment portion of this morning's Kent County Board of Commissioners meeting.
ICE and the lawlessness of our federal government will become your problem more than it already has become.
County residents urging commissioners to adopt 6 sanctuary city policies, which they say would protect immigrants.
I should have some say in what this city looks like and how it treats its people.
They include restricting the ability of local law enforcement to make arrests for federal immigration violations and preventing detention centers from being established in the county. It comes a day after the deadly shooting of a 37-year-old woman by an ICE agent in Minneapolis, captured on video in this disturbing footage.
We will continue to put pressure on the Sheriff's Department, on the county level and city level, to put these policies forward.
County Administrator Al Vanderberg says the issue is out of the board's control because it doesn't consider non-binding resolutions.
So the board's role again is to concentrate on matters within its legal jurisdiction, leaving policy decisions on immigration and other federal matters to those with the authority to make and enforce them.
Activists point to other counties across the country that have adopted similar sanctuary policies.
Some concrete policies that can be adopted because it's been done in other counties.
To cling to these arbitrary bureaucratic rules is insane.
For the second night in a row, activists in West Michigan expressed outrage over the fatal shooting of the woman in Minneapolis. A protest took place at Calder Plaza in downtown Grand Rapids to reject ICE activity in the city.
The people united will never be defeated.
The signs, the chants.
Democrats are here to stay.
And the people attending a protest and vigil at Calder Plaza emphatically sent the message that they want ICE gone.
How can we live in a country that allows such vile behavior that is actually enforced and really propped up by Trump and his administration?
Eduardo Montiel helped organize the protest and hopes the number of people participating can be a signal to local leaders to enact change.
A fantastic help to have a community that, actually allows human beings to live comfortably in their own communities. They're snatching up people, not just Latinos, also Africans, also Asians, all different sorts of people, without asking any questions.
Also speaking out against ICE was Jessica Lichter, who was arrested by GRPD over the weekend for blocking a roadway while demonstrating against U.S. action in Venezuela while our cameras were rolling.
It is our sacred right to protest in this country. Why are we being punished for upholding our sacred right to protest and killed for the same reason?
Lichter says the name of the woman killed in Minneapolis Wednesday should be remembered.
And we're here to stand up and say justice for Ray Good and justice for every single U.S. civilian killed by state-sanctioned violence.
Next on the docket, video obtained through a FOIA request by 13 on Your Side shows the investigation into a former Cedar Springs maintenance worker spending time in prison for child pornography, and what a ban on non-American drones means for law enforcement and the ag industry. In Ottawa County, sheriff's deputies responded early in the morning of January 8th to what they're calling an armed home invasion and domestic assault. The call to 911, the sheriff's office said, came from one of the 3 children also inside the home.
Authorities in Ottawa County still on the lookout for a suspect involved in what the sheriff's office says was an armed home invasion and domestic assault in Georgetown Township.
Shortly before 5:30 a.m. this morning, we were dispatched to the 300 block of Baldwin Street.
Speaking with 13 on Your Side, Captain Jake Sparks with the Ottawa County Sheriff's Office saying it was in the area of Riverstone Townhomes.
When deputies got there, they found that the residence there had been broken into by a 32-year-old man. He had a relationship or a prior relationship with a female inside.
Sparks saying the suspect was armed with a handgun, though Sparks wasn't aware of any shots being fired. The call to 911, he said, came from one of 3 children also inside.
It's a 14-year-old, a 9-year-old, and then a 7-month-old infant. So thankfully, none of the children were harmed. And they're all safely with their mother at this time. Deputies were on scene very promptly.
However,
the suspect fled when the deputies arrived, and there's a wooded area to the north of there, and there was an extensive search of that area for the suspect.
Despite the search, deputies were unable to locate that suspect.
We're actively out trying to locate him as we speak.
While he got away, the sheriff's office later concluded there was now no threat to the community.
Initially, it was believed that he could still be in the area, hiding in the area in the thick wooded area there. That was searched extensively by tactical units and determined that he was not in the area, and so that's why there's no further threat to the public.
And now to new video from the investigation into a former Cedar Springs Public Schools maintenance worker who was spending up to a decade in prison for child pornography. We obtained that police body camera video through a Freedom of Information request. The video spans from the first allegations in August 2024 to his arrest in October of the same year and beyond.
know about. The last thing I said to him was, "You're going to prison."
Hours of body camera video obtained through a Freedom of Information Act by 13 on Your Side details what led up to the arrest of a former Cedar Springs Public Schools maintenance worker in the fall of 2024. Mark LaBelle was sentenced to 2 to 10 years in April of last year for aggravated possession of child sexually abusive material.
There's something on this phone that's so bad that you're willing to leave over it.
The video starts in August 2024 when the Kent County Sheriff's Office responded to a call from LaBelle's wife claiming she found child pornography on her husband's phone.
Locked the door and I pulled it up and I seen that and I just came running and told my dad to come to him so I could get dressed because at that point now I'm fearful he could hurt me.
His wife initially thought LaBelle may have been cheating, but what she saw was more concerning.
I found it and it started off innocent enough, but then I was like, just got more and more up trying to push the AI to do something it didn't want to do.
2 days later, when LaBelle was interviewed, he admitted to deputies that he had a pornography addiction and was using an AI generator to make it.
Graphic images of basically that.
Of what, specifically?
I don't know, like kids and adults.
How old
and,
kids?
Varies, probably from 10 to into adulthood, really.
After a search of LaBelle's devices, over 100 images of child pornography and child sexually abusive material was found on his laptop, some containing child porn known by the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children, which landed him back in questioning on October 29, 2024.
I really don't know how it got on my laptop because I never downloaded anything. Maybe by accident, I guess, but
By accident, okay. So
I'm not saying I did, I just don't, because I don't know how it could have gotten there. It doesn't make any sense to me.
at this point, you are under arrest for aggravated possession of child sexually abusive material and using a computer to commit a crime.
A warrant for LaBelle's arrest was authorized on October 21st of that year.
LaBelle is eligible for parole in April of 2027 with a maximum discharge date of April 2035. A West Michigan organization tasked with improving the foster care system in Kent County isn't sure what will come next for them after an agreement with the state's Department of Health and Human Services wasn't renewed, even though the group was granted a partial victory in court last month. As they still wait a resolution here, their future seems unclear.
It's a very difficult and challenging job to do foster care.
That's where the West Michigan Partnership for Children comes in and aims to help.
It's really driven more by the community and the people that live here.
A local group that CEO Sonia Norman says has the kind of flexibility that bureaucracy may not.
We then contract with 5 private agencies who do direct service, and we have contracts with them that meet needs for children. So if a child needs something in particular, we can then work that out with the case manager at one of the agencies and make sure they have the funding quickly for the child or the parent so that they can receive permanency more quickly.
WMPC was created to carry out a unique foster care model in Kent County that was mandated by lawmakers. But now, whether they'll be able to continue on their current scale, Norman signaled, is unclear.
We're using our reserves to pay for our team, to be able to be staffed and ready to go. We don't have an unlimited amount of reserves.
Much of their funding, she indicated, comes from the state. And late last year, as the state passed its annual budget, the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services didn't renew a contract with the organization. WMPC then went to court.
The West Michigan Partnership for Children was developed out of that mandate. The legislature mandated that we have this type of program in Kent County.
A judge in December ordering the department to implement the unique foster care system in Kent County within 30 days, but not necessarily through WMPC.
At this moment, we don't know what the state is planning to do.
The judge left the door open for the department to fulfill the obligation themselves, but as time runs out,
the statute states we need to have this kind of system in Kent County. Right now, we're the only ones equipped to do it immediately.
And drone users are now limited in their options for new purchases. Whether you use drones for your job or a hobby, you may have to buy American-made in the future. Last month, the FCC banned future models of foreign-made drones from coming to the United States. That includes popular brands like DJI from China.
I repeat, please exit the area immediately.
We've known for a while now that there was likely going to be a sunset on the use of DJI in public safety. So we've been preparing for a long time now to transition to an American-made drone, and you know, we're excited to say that transition is nearly complete.
Captain Joel Roon says the Kent County Sheriff's Office has gone from a fleet of DJI drones to more than 20 Skydio X-10s. The move prompted by a December 23 deadline for foreign-made drones like DJI to undergo a federal security review. Just a day before that, FCC Chairman Brendan Carr announced that new models of foreign-made drones would essentially be banned for sale in the United States, saying they pose, quote, unacceptable risks to the national security of the United States and to the safety and security of U.S. persons. For Roon, switching over their fleet was essential. KCSO uses drones for things like searching for suspects, enhancing situational awareness for deputies, and accident reconstructions.
But they can really get a good idea as to the impact of a situation like this. But again, happy to say that performance-wise, we feel like we're getting a good bargain for our money at this point. Oh, you know, the use of drones in public safety has broadened our capabilities significantly and really added a lot of safety to our ability to respond.
In the agriculture industry, Brian Hammis, co-owner of Flying Acres Egg in Six Lakes, has been using DJI drones since 2019. Unlike the sheriff's office, theirs are around 200 pounds and can be used for spraying crops or spreading fertilizer.
Our concern is not this year or possibly next. Our concern is past that. Without being able to have new technology coming into the United States, we feel that without having that, the companies going back and forth, that destroys innovation.
According to Hammis, while they are looking for alternatives, they would like to find a drone that offers the same type of performance at a similar price point. Not only do they use them for their custom application company, but they sell them as well.
The drones that we use them because they are safe. They are global leaders for a reason.
These restrictions are only for new models. You can still fly your current drones and buy models that are already approved by the FCC. Thanks for joining me in this episode of On the Docket on 13+. We have new episodes releasing every week, taking you into the courtroom for the latest updates and deep dives on crime in and around West Michigan. In the meantime, we'll bring you the latest on crime in court, both on air and online at 13onyourside.com. And when breaking news affects you and your community, we stream live on 13+ with what you need to know right when you need to know. We'll see you next time with updates on What's on the Docket.